I have often said that I think stand-up paddleboarding, or SUPing, is one of the best things that you can do for your core. My name is Dr. Ryan Peebles. I'm the founder of Core Balance Training, and this is a video on stand-up paddleboarding. And the purpose of this video is to talk about the benefits of SUPing for your body, specifically for core strengthening and lower back pain relief. And so we're going to talk about form a little bit, and we're going to talk about why it's so good for your body. And I am not a professional paddler. I've been doing it for a long time, both for surfing and for distance. This is kind of like an amateur type video. One of the reasons that I love stand-up paddleboarding is because it's a standing exercise and it's super fun. And that's opposed to a lot of activities that people like to do, such as cycling or kayaking, which are fun, but they're in the sitting position, and exercising in that sitting position is reinforcing a really common, predictable pattern of muscle imbalances that is bad for your lower back, let's face it. An alternative to this is to be in the full body open position and exercise like that. Why is stand-up paddleboarding so good for you? I call it cross body exercise. It's super good for your core to do things that cross your body and do a cross body motion. And so with paddling, you're reaching over the top of your head and you're pulling through with your hips. And this motion gets that cross of abdominal muscles that is like a sling across your core. And this is something that is more rare for us to get through exercise as adults, but we got it all the time when we were developing crawling as infants and babies. And it's one of the best developmental things for your core. So I highly recommend stand-up paddleboarding. And we're gonna go over just a couple of the basics on how to paddle and how to stand on the board. Some key things to make note of: you don't want to have too wide a stance on the board. You want to have kind of like just shoulder and hip width stance. The wider your feet are, the more rocky the board is going to be. The first thing is we're going to be gripping the paddle, and you want the paddle to be as tall as the wrist on your hand. So it's actually pretty important to be able to have a paddle that's long enough to go up to the wrist on your hand. You're gonna be gripping the top. If your paddle's too short, you're gonna be bending down to reach the water, and that's not very good for your lower back. Once you get your stance down, you wanna have this opposite arm reaching over, because the more angle, the less vertical this is, the more at an angle it is, the more you're going to be turning the opposite direction. So if you're paddling like this, you're going to be turning to the right. If this gets more vertical, you're paddling like this, you go more straight. And so it allows you to do more strokes on each side and be able to focus on your form without having to switch back and forth every time. And then once I get my positioning right, it's time to do the stroke. And the stroke comes from here and through the hips. And then when you pull through, you're gonna use your abdominal muscles and your hips to pull the paddle through. I'm not using my arms to paddle like this. You should not be standing on the paddleboard vertical and having your arms do the work. Imagine that your arms are doing none of the work and that your core is doing all of the work. And this is what that looks like. I'm focusing completely on this motion coming from my torso. So you can see that my arms are not actually doing the work, and I'm rotating through my core. My abdominals are the things pulling through, and there's a lot of hip rotation that goes into that. So like I said, the goal is for the paddle to be more vertical, and so I'm rotating through my hip. Another thing that you kind of want to keep in mind is that you're not pulling the paddle all the way through back really far. You're really just reaching forward and pulling it about to where your body is. That's where you get the drive from. So from the front of the boat to your body is where the paddle goes to. Anything after this is just follow through and pulling the paddle out of the water. So reach, rotate, and you want to feel it. This is one of the most important things. You want to feel it coming through your core. And of course, you're going to switch sides, and you're going to do it on the opposite side as well. When you're on the board, you're going to have some give. When you're on the ground, there's no give. So it looks like I'm straightening this leg, but actually when I'm on the board, both my legs actually stay more bent. And so this is the paddle on that side, and then when it's time to switch, reaching over, boom, boom. And so my drive is coming through here. And then when I'm coming up, it's all glute lifting me up. So it's kind of like a little mini deadlift as well. And so that is the form for paddling on a stand-up paddleboard, and you should feel it in your core. The most important thing is that you feel it in the place that you want to. If you're feeling it in your quads, that probably means you're spending too much effort trying to balance. It probably means you're doing too much of these like little mini squats, and not too much knee motion and not enough hip motion. So you want to feel it, like I said, through here. You can feel it in your glutes, and you can feel it as you pull through with your hip flexors. And let's go show you. So we'll go demonstrate some paddling and over on the water. So that is stand-up paddling for core training and for lower back pain relief. Hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, wipe out.
Thank you guys all for being here. Until next time, down on the floor and connect to your core. See you next week.